Hi, you're listening to the Technology for Mindfulness podcast, episode 71, hosted by me, Robert Plotkin. Today, I'm going to be speaking with Ashley Sumner, the CEO and co-founder of Quilt, an app that allows women anywhere to spark offline conversations that bring community together in a fun, safe, and intimate way. You can find out more about Ashley at wearequilt.com. I'm extremely pleased to welcome Ashley Sumner to the Technology for Mindfulness podcast. Hi, Ashley, and welcome to the Technology for Mindfulness podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Robert.
You're welcome. It's great to have you here. I'd love to talk to you about what you're doing to connect people in the real world through technology. And maybe you could get started by just telling people about Quilt and particularly what motivated you to start this project.
Yeah, wonderful. Personally, what motivated me is I've always had an obsession with people, with like coming together in person, making eye contact. Even I think I'm still in the millennial range, but the rise of social media and kind of this like digitally driven society never really perfectly landed with me. And so I became quite obsessed with what it would look like to bring anywhere from kind of 2 to 15 people together over the course of my 20s. And, I had a career that spanned, it was so random, but not random now, but I was a matchmaker, so I would introduce people romantically, or I was a membership manager and a membership director and a community organizer at all of these huge, fascinating brands, whether it was in the wellness space or the creative space or the co-working space. And all of these companies took up real estate kind of as this way to bring community together, which I thought was beautiful. And I also thought wasn't nearly as accessible as I would love for it to be. I wanted more people, and particularly women, when Quilt came to me and my business partner 4 or 5 years ago, what would it look like for, mass accessibility to something that is so special and so unique. So the thought really then was, well, technology seems to be the answer, but technology is the opposite of the thing we're saying that we want to do. So how do we like combine these kind of two concepts? And what we came up with, we're headquartered in LA. We look around, there's a lot of empty space. There's a lot of homes here. And we thought maybe technology can just inspire women to open up the spaces that they already have to create these community experiences that, right now, arguably the top 1 or 10% really have access to. So that is what Quilt does. We are a platform that sparks communities. We're neighborhood by neighborhood, and women kind of rise as leaders and create community experiences on causes and topics and activities that they really care about, in order to invite in women that live nearby and really, reconnect us in a way that we believe is just so critical, especially right now.
That's amazing. Yeah. I wonder if you could give some examples of how it works, get a more concrete idea of this. What would be an example of a specific event, maybe the topic, and then how people physically come together for it?
Yeah. So some of our most popular topics have been on money, have been on leadership, have been on desire or identity, have been on, interracial friendships, spirituality. And all of our gatherings are interactive. They're conversation based. So they're not panels, they're not talks. Every woman that comes is a participant, to the extent she doesn't have to, stand up in front of all of these women and speak for 5 minutes, but everyone has this opportunity. It's the wisdom of the room that comes together. So a leader will post a gathering, put it on our calendar in our app that we have on iOS. And then the community has an opportunity to book it. Similar like booking an event, you can go and you can book. She can set the time, she can set the date, she can set for how many. So it can be anywhere from 2 women coming together to 20 women coming together. Sometimes we have even larger gatherings. And then, you kind of come to a stranger's home who doesn't feel like a stranger moments later and participate, and typically it's a round circle discussion where everyone's asked specific questions and they set kind of the community guidelines and the container for that conversation. And then afterwards, what's great about our app and why we really wanted to link online and offline so that women can be really, really present when they come offline, can make, eye contact and really meet one another. The app will upload all the connections that you just made kind of by gathering that you've been to. So you can go deeper in group thread or one-on-one messaging or having coffees afterwards. So you don't have to have that awkward, what's your name? What do you do? What's your phone number? The app really takes care of all of the social awkward networking things that we have learned to love to hate.
That's great. I mean, I have so many questions about it, and in part to help people who are listening and watching to understand how they can get involved and take advantage of this. One of them is, you said to start that there's a lot of people who just don't have access to the spaces that would be needed for this. When you said that someone posts an event, just to be clear, is that person necessarily providing the space, or they're providing the topic and someone else could provide the space? How does that work?
Yeah, we match make, so there are a lot of women in our community who have a home, but maybe aren't the one who wants to lead the conversation. That said, leading the conversation, we've designed the topics, the discussion guides, like we've really made it, it's not like you have to be this facilitator, you have to be skilled in 10 years and 10,000 hours. And, we really wanted to make, again, the power of using your voice very accessible for women. But you can have a home and you can be a separate person who wants to facilitate. We've also, inspired by the community, we've started doing walks or hikes or in parks or local coffee shops. And we've partnered with, brands and stores, female-owned brands and stores up and down Sunset in LA. So we never want space to inhibit anyone from being very excited about leading a gathering. So we'll always work closely in helping with that.
It's really great. It's making me think, like, I lived in a suburb outside of Boston for a while that shall remain nameless, and one of the things that was frustrating to me about it was a lot of great people, but very little of what felt like public space, where people could gather out. All the gatherings seemed to be in people's private homes, churches or other places of worship, maybe. It was very limited in that regard. And there certainly were, if you were meeting in someone's home, it was because you were their friend, you knew them, they invited you. What you're creating is, and maybe you're already thinking about, it seems like it doesn't fit cleanly into public versus private. It's trying to mix the two together in a way that works best for people and using technology to help facilitate that. A public space could become private for a certain purpose, for a certain time, or vice versa. Like you're making someone's home be semi-public in a structured way that's also safe and comfortable for everyone involved.
I mean, I so appreciate you having the insight to that so quickly, because yes, I became obsessed with third place, third homes, third places, at the beginning of launching this, and kind of our need. It's like we have home, we have work, but really that place where we constantly go to feel safe and that we belong in community. So that, you identifying that definitely means a lot to me. And I also think, especially in LA, but it can feel like exclusive when you're invited to a dinner party at someone's home. Like, oh, I'm going to a dinner party, or way back when, oh, I'm going to a Tupperware or a Mary Kay party, or there's this PTA gathering. Are you in or are you not in? Historically, like women gather, but what does it look like to always feel welcome? Just like when and where you want to. And if you want to be in a home, if you want to be at a reservoir walking, if you want to be at the local coffee shop, but just knowing that it's there, I think that really calms down our brains in a way to know it's always available and that you're always welcome. That's not something that I think, particularly in the United States, I think we've had a lot of isolation and separation and individuality and working on ourselves and not constantly feeling connected when we want to be, not overly connected. I think there needs to be consent and respect and boundaries to our desire for personal space. But just to know it's always there for you, I love.
Oh, great. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about, I'm sure there's been a lot of thought that you put into this balancing. I don't know if you've experimented with different ways of, how should I put it, helping provide some structure and guidance to these kinds of meetings while also letting people bring themselves to it and letting it be free and open. There's got to be some tension, balance, but also ways in which those things mutually support each other.
Another great question. Yeah, my philosophy on community is, it's not walls up. You're not again, why we didn't take over physical space. You put up a wall and all of a sudden it's like in versus out. It's around guidelines. It's around, for us, this need for reciprocity within the community and participation, this need to lead with vulnerability, this need to be welcoming, this need to just have fun. We're all going through stuff, but also just like have fun together. So we've been able to set really high, those are examples of really high level community guidelines that Quilt stands for. So when you're joining, like this is a thing that you also believe in, you want to show up in that way too, and we can hold each other accountable to those things. And then we really created the conversation structure. So things like it's interactive, asking questions, not telling somebody or giving somebody advice, not talking over someone, not dominating a conversation. When you veer into that land, that's a different type of event. And there's plenty of those out there and they serve a massive purpose. But for us, we're really, it's about a little less about the leader and the ego of one person's thoughts and more about the wisdom of the room. So we've created this framework. I think I've personally written maybe 50 of these topic discussions that women can go in and pull from a host portal. But I loved how everyone's kind of made it their own, right? So there's one on Monday. Haley, she's a brilliant chef and a founder of a company, and she's doing a cook and chat. So they're cooking together. By no means I didn't create that framework. She can feed me. But also then pulling a discussion. So when they're sitting around a dinner table, they're going to use a discussion guide. So I've loved to see like how these have evolved over time with just using the framework that we put in place a couple of years ago. It's been really beautiful.
Yeah, that's got to be amazing. Is there anything else that's maybe surprised you about how these have developed organically in a way maybe you didn't design or expect? I'm sure that's going to continue to happen over time.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, just the fact that they're also not happening out of a home right now, that in the beginning, I really felt like this was a principle for us that was not going to be swayed. Like you need to feel safe. And that was just something for me. And the community was like, but we love walking, like we want to walk together. We want to talk together. We want to play together. So like a group of women went down did a distillery night, and they brought their husbands and their partners, men coming into the platform and participating. And now we have couple chats, where each person is bringing their partner and they're using kind of our deep conversation framework with their partners in space and inviting men in, which I absolutely love. We are for everyone. This is just happened to have sparked really for women initially. So that's been definitely really fun. And we've also been able to partner with brands that we really love and support, other female focused brands that are kind of also reimagining the way we do things. And some of our gatherings have turned into something that's now called a house party, which definitely leans a little more into the fun and playful and celebratory side of things, because we want to do that too. And like, when was the last time you got invited to a house party? Yeah. Right? It's like the dinner party, the house party, family dinner, game nights, really these classic experiences that we've loved and we just potentially have stopped doing. So it continues. For me, as long as there's wonderful conversation and it's super inclusive, yeah, I'm so happy with however that takes form.
Yeah, that's great. And I assume that most people coming to these gatherings, at least the first time, are coming with people they don't know, I assume.
No one knows anyone.
No one knows
and they don't
anyone.
Want to.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. I'm like, bring a friend. They're like, no, I'm doing this for me. And I want to meet new people. And I'm like, okay, great. And then afterwards, they're like, I have to tell everyone.
Yeah.
But they come, one of our sayings is, they come as strangers, leave as not just friends, but like best friends. And we can do that within an hour of talking.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about also. I assumed that, I mean, it would just make sense that people end up forming some real friendships and relationships out of these meetings.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, deep friendships, travel buddies, co-founders, clients, that's, my matchmaking background can't quite help a strong desire to just like connect people constantly. And that's really like for, the roadmap or product roadmap, we're continuing to think in those ways, how the technology can be thoughtfully connecting you, not like bombarding you with endless array of options and swiping and all the things.
Right.
But a thoughtfulness to how we come together and what we need and when we need it. Because I think at every stage in our lives, I often get asked the question, well, what if they meet their friend and then they leave? And I think if you really build a community around belonging, where there's a group of people that will constantly, no matter what stage of life you're going through, see you and accept you. I change every week. I change every hour right now as a startup founder in the tech space, so right now I might need a friend in this moment, but tomorrow I might need a mentor or just somebody to talk to for 5 minutes about their experience raising capital. Or, 2 years from now, I might need a conversation about like, I don't know, if I'm going to have children or I'm going to get pregnant or any of these things. Like, you need to connect with people. So it's endless, I think.
Yeah. And, it sounds like you're talking about a mindset of using technology in the service of helping people connect in the real space. I wonder if there have been, requests from people to have more technology, beef up the app, head in that direction, and whether it raises any concerns about, the motivation for this, which is to just really mainly use technology as a facilitator for in-person connection. And I wonder if there's been any challenges with that.
Yeah, originally we didn't have any community features. In 2019, we really shifted from a marketplace, a web app marketplace, one-off booking, to launching iOS with community features as a subscription. So there's free membership to $19 a month membership. And that was really through listening to the community, and I realized that while I'm ready to come offline and deeply connect with anyone who wants to, that not everybody is there, and that's terrifying. And if I was really thinking about like women, I'm very visual. The visual I had in my mind was like women falling asleep or waking up, and the first thing they do is they go for their phone and they go to Instagram or they go to, I don't know, Tinder or some type of connection app that isn't necessarily built to like fill you up and give you the confidence and excitement, but can lead to comparison or rejection or these feelings. I was like, I really want Quilt to replace that action. I want you to pick your phone up, dive into a conversation, see that there's like women having coffee right now down the street before you go to work, but also be able, if you can't do that, like you can't come offline every day. And I think that our app is the real estate that so many of our wonderful brand neighbors have taken up. It's playing that role. It's meant to kind of create synchronicity. And if you need support in a moment and you can get that support by sending a message or reading a post and knowing you could show up, I don't think it's definitely not my decision to decide if a woman wants to meet up one time a month or 4 times a day. Like we have a member that went to 4 things yesterday.
Wow.
That's what she needs right now. And she's, she just was so excited by the calendar,
Yeah.
And I'm an introvert and I don't need that much, So I think I don't want to decide, and I don't think it's anybody's decision for the need. It's just, we can make conscious, humane choices in how we build features to not be so addictive that it pulls you away from the thing that's right in front of you. And that's what we're focused on. We're kind of constantly balancing. You don't see swipe right, swipe like that's not something you're going to see when you come into Quilt ever. So.
Yeah, no, that answers my question. It sounds like you're being very conscious about the features on the platform and how they might serve or disserve what your core mission is.
Yeah.
You
You have
know,
to, if you have to stay true.
I also wonder, we've seen with certain other platforms that shall remain nameless, mostly fully online ones, that there can be, let's say, when people come together on their own freely, there can be conflicts, there can be negative interactions that arise between people just naturally on their own. I wonder if that's something you've had to deal with, and I assume as you grow, it just might be a natural outgrowth, not something that your platform has done necessarily, but that might occur. And have there been events, or just have you been giving thought to how you might help keep people feeling safe and welcome in the face of what just even might be just natural interactions among people as they're interacting with each other?
Yeah. I mean, we're human. I've only ever been in the business of like people, like connecting people, throwing events for people, talking to people, and I think we can stand for something really strong, which is not everyone's going to be your best friend. Like, but even if they annoy you, you can hold space for them. So I think that I see this as a
Yeah.
spectrum, like, sure, that person over there, she did that thing that was annoying to you. Why? But like, that I have a little less capacity for, because I do think we could push ourselves
Mm-hmm.
to ask ourselves why we're so frustrated or annoyed by somebody around us, and do a little
Yeah.
internal reflection potentially.
Yeah.
Um, but that said, we have a very vocal community, and I love that. And, because for us, this idea of membership, I've constantly gone back and forth on kind of not wanting to charge women anything because it's community, but we really see them as community dues. And I think that these community dues give all of the women the excitement to kind of mediate, and we have leaders. I see community in kind of concentric circles. So even in LA, we have a first core 100 women who really live
Okay.
and breathe and stand for quilt out in the real world. I can't be at the 100 gatherings that are happening this month.
Yeah.
Neither can my 6-person team. And so I think like we've been very thoughtful. We've grown very slowly, probably to the detriment of some people's desires to want us to just go be everywhere.
Yeah.
But I don't think that if we allowed that to happen, we just become an open kind of cheap platform that wasn't really trying to shift a consciousness.
Yeah.
And so it really is one gathering at a time and one conversation at a time. And when it's only ever happened maybe once or twice, when someone kind of acted maybe not in a quilt way, not to
Mm-hmm.
utopian create
Yeah. Yeah.
here,
Sure.
but we've gotten emails, and I'm very, I need to hear from more than one other person, usually to red flag something. But I'm still the person that gets on the phone and has a conversation to check in. So yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
keep on keeping
yeah, I
on.
would suspect, we think about what's gone wrong with social media. A lot of what contributes to the problem is the
Oof,
amplification effect. You know,
yeah.
the volume of people who are online, the to some extent innate urge that people have to seek attention, and the large audience they can get online. It strikes me that when you're getting people together in person in small groups, you have a lot of forces there that won't contribute to that seeking of attention from millions of people, because there's not millions of people. And we all know that when you're interacting with someone face to face, you're just so much more likely to act in a way that's compassionate and humane to them when with
Yeah.
them, than when you're in these faceless online communities.
Yeah, I think there's situational awareness. There's, social awareness, for sure. And I've honestly seen women come into the community who maybe started off not having a whole lot of social awareness. And by constantly going into these talk circles, they do
Yeah.
now, which is beautiful. Women finding their voice, and women kind of like, seeing what's going on around them and like adopting some of those behaviors has been super touching for me, very beautiful. And I think right now is the rise of kind of private vertical social networks. I think now is this time for it. There is a, you know, the rate in which people are deleting some of their social names, nameless, I'll play your game, nameless. I can probably get away with saying it a little more, you know, like deleting accounts or setting goals to not go in something. You know, we have an onboarding process. We collect information, we review it, and we accept you to come in because it is a safe space and it's not about blasting or doing something, and we will kick you out. We're not using your data to sell. It's not an open platform. We collect information so we can better matchmake you to a gathering that you want to go to. But, you know, we don't collect, you know, for us, it has nothing to do with your influencer count or what you do for a living. We don't ask any of those questions. But it is very critical that Quilt is creating a safe environment. And I don't currently feel safe on any social network that exists. I don't feel safe on any dating app that exists. Like, I don't feel safe, right? So I think that, you know, we are thinking about those things every day, and making decisions accordingly.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm just also thinking about, you know, in my own life and lives of many people I know, how few opportunities there are to just meet people in a group in a let's call it task-oriented setting, you know, whether it's for business networking,
outcome oriented,
you know,
just going for it.
Right. You know, I mean, there's lots of, what do people do? Sports, business, lots of tasks and activities where you might be, that kind of thing. And I know you said you have cooking and other events that maybe have some task oriented nature to them, but it sounds like a lot of what you're offering is really bring it down to the basics, just the opportunity to meet with people who you don't know and be with them. Think about how, you know, imagine. I think about how sad it is. And I do this, you know, I just go into a cafe, you know, where everyone is there physically together, but isolated, but still actually isolated. They're at a laptop or maybe with one other friend they're sitting with. And the way the environment is structured and plays out, it's not really a space for people to meet with and interact with each other face to face.
I love that you say that. One of our taglines is socializing is self-care. This idea that like socializing has become like you're anxious, you have to do this thing, you have to get this thing you have to, you know, get something from someone. It's like, so, you know, like what, in the first 5 minutes, I'm supposed to give you some, you know, just like, let's build some relationships here. Human connection is so critical. Loneliness is on the rise, blah, blah, blah. I have a couple of women on my team who have decided that a couple days out of the week, they're leaving the office, which I love. It's like, just get out. And they're just literally rocking up to coffee shops and sparking quilt chats.
That's great.
They were putting up a sign, you know, and just starting a conversation. And I'm like, how's that going? They're like, great, you know, getting app downloads thing. And I'm like, there you go. Cool. So I love that you just brought that example up.
Yeah, that's great. I would imagine that some people are just shocked or don't know what to make of it.
Totally. Yeah. They go towards the front, you know. No, but overall, and then people that don't join, if they're sitting there working, will come up afterwards and say like, what was that?
Yeah.
You know, everyone's like, it's like we're aliens that's sitting around. Aliens have come down and decided to start talking with one another. Us humans. Imagine.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I grew up in New York in a time, it's probably still the same way now, but you know, when someone came up to you to chat, you suspected they had something they were trying to get out of you.
Oh yeah.
That it was a scam.
Well, as a woman, I feel like I'm either getting attacked or hit on, or, you know, I mean, think about it. You know, I don't walk out in the streets after 6 p.m.
Right.
You know, so the fact that we could just calm the nervous system down a little bit and it could just be like a delightful interaction.
Yeah.
Go on your way. That was so like, we don't need to make it, just be present, you know?
Yeah. What, you know, there's so many questions. We could probably go on forever. One other thing that comes to mind when you talked about structuring the conversations or giving guidelines, you know, one thing I was just thinking of is in making conversations non-task oriented. It was a few years ago when I first read the suggestion to not start every conversation with a new person I meet with, what do you do?
Yes.
And I still do it sometimes, but I try my best not to start with, what do you do? But and I'm sure that's in line with your philosophy, but could you give people maybe just a couple of examples of ways in which you try to give guidelines, or I assume it's a fairly loose structure to not be too imposing, to help facilitate these kinds of relationships?
Yeah. It's funny. Nobody knows what anyone does until the end of a quilt chat, if they want to, because we provide 5 minutes to offer up an ask or a give to the room.
Okay.
So the ask could be, I am a graphic designer, I'm looking for clients, so that you can choose to plug yourself if that's what you want to do.
Okay.
And then they continue to connect afterwards. So we start with feelings. I think I've gone through my own personal journey and kind of getting out of my head and connecting to my intuitive body and my heart, and that whole world that has so much to say, but so much of us have just decided to not listen because of so many things that we've all gone through on this planet. So we have become quite known for an iteration on one question to get everyone started, which is one word or a phrase or sentence, usually a word, to describe how you're feeling right now, to describe your relationship with money, to describe your relationship with your family. Like, think about one word, one word to describe 2019. That one was delightful. One word to describe what you want 2020 to be culminating into. Like, one word, and around a feeling or a hope or a desire. And so that is pretty much the first question that everything starts on, is a feeling-based question. Everyone goes around, 2 people, 10 people. I've done it in a room with 100, and we're just like, and then after that, there are questions that go deeper and deeper and deeper, and you can choose to participate beyond that, but everybody always participates in that one. And it just sets a tone in such a beautiful, simple, and effective way. So every guide, all of them start that way. And now we have, thousands of women running around LA asking other people how they're feeling. How nice.
Yeah, that's really nice. Really nice. It's unfortunately rare. So just to let people know, I'm sure a lot of people listening and watching are curious about how they can get involved. So what can people do?
Yes, please. You can, hopefully you have iOS, because that's what we have, but Android's coming. So you can, for free, come and download the app and kind of quickly dive in. If you're interested in, partnering, or you have ideas, or you just want to talk, you can also then email us at hello@wequilt.com. And you can follow us. You can, reach out. All of our handles are We Are Quilt, but really I think the step one is downloading the app, and we help you from there. We'll make sure that you end up in the right home, or you open your home, or you facilitate, or we've got you from that point. So we've kept it pretty easy.
Awesome. Is it limited to the LA area, or is it more broad than that?
That's a great question. Yeah, so we've hosted gatherings in LA, San Francisco, and New York, and there's been some kind of offshoots expanding beyond those regions. My hope is that if you don't live in one of those places, you do download and you get invited to fill out some information to help spark your city. And we're currently, or your town. I'm from a small town, so I'm all about towns. So we're currently collecting that information to decide where we're going next. And if that is intriguing to you to hear more about that opportunity, by all means. But also until we get to your town or city, we have online groups, and we've been trying to provide some connection, some value to the women who have honestly signed up all over the world. So you won't be lost in the mix.
That's great. And the app, just so people know, it is called Quilt, and the website is wearequilt.com.
Yeah, wearequilt.com. If you go into the App Store, type in Quilt app, I love our name, but Quilt is a very popular,
Yeah.
smart name out there. So yeah, so Quilt app in the store, but everything is wearequilt.com, handle, all the good stuff.
Fantastic. Well, this is great. I'm glad we got to share with people what you're doing, let them know how to get involved and to spread the quilt and grow it. It's really been great talking to you, and really enjoyed having you on the Technology for Mindfulness podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I really loved your questions.
Oh, great. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Bye now. Thanks so much for joining us for this Technology for Mindfulness podcast with me, Robert Plotkin, and today's guest, Ashley Sumner, the CEO and co-founder of Quilt, an app that allows women anywhere to spark offline conversations that bring community together in a fun, safe, and intimate way. You can find out more about Ashley at wearequilt.com. If you liked today's episode, please subscribe to our podcast and our YouTube channel, and rate and review and share the episode with your friends. We'd really appreciate it. Don't forget to also check out our blog at technologyformindfulness.com to get free and practical tips for beating digital distraction and for being more productive and focused and creative and happy with your technology. And right now, if you go to our webpage and sign up for a free mailing list, you'll receive a free guide on how to manage your technology use and achieve balance with your tech. I'm Robert Plotkin, and I'll join you next time on the Technology for Mindfulness podcast with David Klein, the founder of America Offline, an organization that helps kids to reconnect with each other and the world around them through sports and the arts.